you shouldn't be surprised when people leave your company.
Mm-hmm.
You should know. Many times I go in companies
Mm-hmm.
and they have not outlined that. They don't really know what they're looking for other than a title.
So many of them
Yeah.
do not do that. And then they wonder why
Yes.
they have high turnover rates.
Yeah. In many positions, there is a cost for every day that role is open. You know what? I build plans for companies to compete with side hustles. So why are they leaving? Okay, how are we going to compete with that next year? Yeah, they have flexible work schedules.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to do?
Oh, they need you. So what's one of the biggest hiring mistakes that you see businesses make when they hire new employees? Not understanding how to hire the right people in your business can cause your business a lot of lost time, money, and resources. That's why I'm super excited today because I'm speaking with a very passionate business owner, Miss Pamela Allen, the owner of a Sell Talent and Development Group where she helps business owners like you hire top talent and deliver world-class training and development. So I love to hear more about your journey. I remember when we was talking, you told me how you bootstrap your business after leaving a 6-figure job to become a stay-at-home mom. So I want to say what inspired you to take that leap.
Okay. So it was more about priorities. You know, a lot of times we'll say, this is important, my family is important, but we don't put the time where we're saying our priorities are.
Right.
And so my daughter at that time was important. She was 12 years old. And I can remember the week before that change happened, I picked her up from daycare, well, after school care.
Yeah.
And I was late again. And I looked at her. She looked up at me and she said, Mommy, I never think you're going to come. Sometimes I think you're going to leave me here. And I couldn't shake that.
Right.
After she said that, I said, you know what? It's time for me to do something differently.
Yeah.
So the next day I went to work. It was heavy. It wasn't one of those things I could just let go. And I went home that night. I talked to my husband then, and I said, I believe I'm supposed to leave this job and spend more time with Deja and take care of her. So it wasn't even to leave for a business. I didn't take the leap for that.
Right.
I took the leap to be more present with my daughter. And it inspired me. And believe me, it was a step of faith. We didn't have a lot of money saved.
Right.
Even though we were bringing in 6 figures, I was, and
Right.
and my husband at the time, he had a great job. We weren't saving a lot of money. We were living the lifestyle that matched that money. Yeah. That's what we were doing.
Yeah. And then you just left.
And I know a lot of people like that too. Yes. And I talked to him. He said, okay, leave. And once he said that, I talked to the COO and I said, I have to leave. And they threw everything at me to stay. But it wasn't about money. Yeah.
It was about family.
And so that really inspired me, really understanding that my priority at that time was being present and taking care of my baby. Yes.
So being present and making sure your daughter was straight was priority.
It was.
So what job were you working? What was you doing? What industry were you in?
I was in human resources and I worked for a pretty well-known company in corporate. And I had been in human resources then for about 20 years, but different assignments in HR. And I led that business unit, acquisitions. We were on the cusp of going global. And so I was traveling a lot, not just in the country, but out of the country as well. And so I was gone a lot.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it was the funnest career, most challenging that I've ever had.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes you can get that adrenaline twisted for things that are truly important.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's what I was doing. I was leading HR for the company. We were in startup mode. We stayed in startup mode the entire time that I was with the company.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we moved the location, when I went in, we were moving a location from one state to this state, to Virginia. And then after that, we were growing so fast. We were acquiring.
Right.
We were building businesses in other states. So as you know, startups can be pretty robust.
Yes, very.
Yeah, there's no stopping. Yeah.
So you were in startup mode the whole time. So you was constantly on the go, on the road,
All
just
the time.
working.
Nonstop. Even at home.
Even at home,
Getting
after you
calls
come
at
off?
8 o'clock at night.
And you be up working?
Yes. But I was getting calls at 8. Sometimes I would get calls at 5 in the morning.
Goodness gracious.
Yes.
5 and 8 to do what?
It was the norm, whether it was an employee investigation, whether it was a safety concern, whether it was to help managers through an issue. But that was the expectation of that startup environment.
That's a lot right there. That's a lot to deal with.
Yes.
That brings me to what I wanted to ask you next. How does your experience working with those major companies, is it Sabra dipping? Sabra dipping.
Yes.
How did those influence your decision to start your own talent and development group?
Okay. Well, I learned a lot. Sabra was 50% owned by Frito-Lay, which is owned by Pepsi. And then the other percentage was owned by the second largest food company in Israel. So with that said, there were a plethora of resources. And I learned a lot. It was continuous learning. And so I learned some good and I learned some things not to do in that process, but more good.
Right.
And not just Sabra, but prior to that, I worked for one of Motorola companies, which was Kimanda in Richmond. And of course, they went out of business. And then before that, for a metal manufacturing company for 10 years. And I got nuggets from every single company that I worked for.
Right. So you was doing the same role in different aspects in different companies.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
So your background in this area is extensive.
It is very extensive. Now, I took different nuggets from different companies. The first one, the metal manufacturing, was a 50-year-old company at the time. And it was more of a traditional approach. It was something that was already built. So you had your policies, your procedures, you knew what to expect.
Right.
You just went by the book. And the book helped you make your decisions and everything. But I grew so much. That was my start into human resources.
Okay.
And then the second one, Motorola, that we're talking technology.
Right.
So I went from a company that you could kind of look at as being antiquated in their processes to it's like moving from the Flintstones to the Jetsons. Everything was technology, and you had to be savvy. And I had a gap.
Right.
I had a gap. So I would rely on some of the business partners that had been there to help teach me. And then outside of that, I would have to teach myself. Yes, my strength is in the people realm, but it wasn't in the technology realm.
Right.
But people respect when you understand the technical piece of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is so true. So your focus, which is what I've seen, is on people.
It is on people.
I love that because it's important because a lot of times people, employees get left behind.
Yes, that's true. And it happened a lot during COVID also. And we're still seeing some of that. We're recovering. I don't know if people understand the part that COVID played on people in the workplace, not just from a resource standpoint, also a mental health standpoint.
So what are you seeing right now when it comes to people in the workplace, the effects that COVID had on them?
Right. Well, it's pretty similar to what happened in the school system. There were so many children that got left behind, right? Either parents had to continue working and they just didn't have what they needed, the resources that they needed.
Right.
It happened in companies. People were cutting back during COVID. We didn't know what to expect. Training stopped. We had to teach people how to be more self-sufficient and continue the training. But not just that. People had their own issues to deal with. They had family members passing away.
Right.
They had to worry about working, still paying the bills and putting bread on the table. But not just that. They had to think about, what am I going to do with my children while I'm at work? So all of that impacted the environment.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So,
it was disruptive.
What did they do, or what did these companies implement to help with some of these problems?
So let me give you an example of what one company did. They brought mental health resources to the table. Now, we know the EAP program. It's a good program, but it's limited. But there was someone on site teaching mental health first aid and some of the things, teaching managers how to work through those issues. Flexible work schedules. Teaching employees how to train themselves, giving them the resources so that they could train themselves. Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, it was real good.
This brings me to my
But the companies that understood did it.
Okay, not all of them, but the ones you work with did.
And the ones that didn't, some of the companies got left behind because their turnover was so high once people came out of COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's going to be very high because they didn't try to basically cater to the people, understand where they were.
Yes. And now we're in a I choose me place with people. So doctors, nurses that have been in those careers for many years look back and they're evaluating what happened. And now they're saying, I choose me. I want a different career now. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
That's real interesting.
Mhm.
So your career is very diverse in human resources.
It is.
So many business owners, I don't think they fully understand the role of a PEO, a people engagement officer, right? So first, before I get to what I really want to ask you, can you tell the audience or the people
Okay.
what is company culture for those who don't understand what that is?
Okay. It's the attitude, it's the personality of the company, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's the norms, things that are acceptable versus those that are not, the behaviors that are acceptable, those that are not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't intentionally build that culture, anything goes.
So when you say
Mhm.
anything goes,
Mhm.
what do you mean anything goes?
There are going to be behaviors, there are
Mhm.
going to be attitudes. The personality of the company is going to be something that it's not organic. You did not build it.
Mm.
And when you do that, it's disruptive to your results.
Mhm.
Yeah. When you don't intentionally focus on that. And it takes leaders to define that.
Mhm.
Hey, here, this is the way we do safety.
Right.
Safety is 100% important to us.
Right.
And to show you that it's important, we're going to train you. But when you don't follow the safety protocol and we've given you the tools,
Right.
there's accountability.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes
We
a lot
want
of
you to
sense.
come to work and go home with your family the same way. And sometimes companies say it's important, but then they're not really showing that
Right.
it's important.
Right.
That's culture.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good because
Yeah.
a lot of employers,
Mm-hmm.
business owners, they don't understand that culture is
Mhm.
important
Yes.
because one, when you have employees, they want to feel like they are a part of something,
Absolutely.
you know? So it's a
Absolutely.
big deal.
It is a big deal. And also the decision-making process.
Right.
Are you allowing your employees to make decisions? That's part of culture.
Yeah.
Or do you want people to be robots? Do you want to just tell and they deliver? In some environments, that's okay, but it should be determined from the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Mhm.
Being an entrepreneur is so hard. There's always a new problem that you need to solve within your business, and it's always rooted to how can I make more money so that I can grow my business. But trust me, I know it's hard because of the many hats that you wear within your business every single day. I've helped countless business owners to solve this very problem with what I call profit, cash flow, and revenue drivers. These three key drivers are major to make your business move. This is truly the cheat code to making more money within your business. And if you see this working for you, schedule a call with me today by clicking the link below, within the description, or the comments. See you there. So now, in regards to my question, can you explain how your role contributes to shaping company culture and driving a business's success?
Yes, I will. So I'm very data centric. I love to look at data because when you're working with people in operations, that's what they look at. Most of them are
Right.
not warm and fuzzy. So I pull a lot of objective and subjective data so that I can speak to the numbers.
Yeah.
And that's somewhere that I used to have to grow 10 years ago. I didn't do that.
Mm.
But over time, I said, if I'm working with these operational people,
Yeah.
they need numbers.
Yeah.
And so let me give you an example of something recently. We're looking at women. We have a woman who's running for president, right, in a leadership room. And I don't give my opinion either way. But women in the workplace have been left behind. And the data shows it. And so when I'm privy to that data, I'm looking at the numbers, the salaries. I'm looking at apples to apples. We have 5 men and 1 woman in this job. She's delivering better results. Why is she being paid $30,000 less and she's been here longer? And so I'm able to help to identify disparities. That's one of my greatest
Yeah.
gifts. And it really fulfills me to be able to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So that's one way.
okay, that's one way.
Mhm.
Is that why you focus on women? Because I do see you have a focus for women
Well, it's a
entrepreneurs.
gift. It's a gift, but that's not my big thing that I hone in on in the workplace. Any
Right.
disparities.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm looking at disparities because one thing, I want to keep you out of court.
Yeah.
And I want your culture to be one that is diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's fair and
Yeah.
equitable. But I can also help with best practices. We do a lot of research, have great resources. And so when people are doing things that are no longer relevant, I can present best practices to them.
Right.
Yeah, and help them to implement and execute those.
So when you present those best practices and help them to execute, how do they do once they put what you're telling them to put in place? How do they perform?
Well, first of all, we have to gauge it, and we have to get
Yeah.
managers, the leaders on board, so that it's not a fly by night thing.
Right.
But once it's executed, it's consistent, we usually see some great results. Yeah.
That's good.
Mhm.
That's really good. So how has your experience in people engagement prepared you for leadership roles in your business?
Okay. So people in itself, that this is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times I interview people for people roles, and one thing they'll say when I ask, so why do you want to do this? Oh, I like people.
Yeah.
And I think liking people, that's pretty cool, but you still have to be able to solve an issue.
Yes.
And I think it's helped and it's prepared me because I've been able to solve issues, to work in different industries with different people, and to see how it's done on different platforms. And it's just helped me in a big way. It's helped the business in a big way. I'm able to give and to generate revenue in companies to help them to generate more revenue.
Right.
Again, I'm data centric, so I want
Yeah.
to make sure that I can see that what I'm giving you is working.
Yeah, definitely. Numbers is what show you whether it's working or
Absolutely.
not.
So we're able to put some metrics in place,
Yeah.
again, whether it's subjective or objective, whether
Right.
it's surveys or whether it's following the financials, to see that it's working.
Right.
And then we're able to take some of those processes that help something to work and apply it to a different business. Yeah.
My mind can't stop thinking about that pay gap with
It's
the
real.
with that. So I'm like,
Yes.
that's it's just on my mind, but
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
And many
30,000.
times people are not thinking about that. Leaders
Yeah.
are not even looking at the data in that way.
Yeah, and $30,000
Sometimes
difference
more.
and outperforming
Sometimes
everybody else.
more. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been pretty significant.
So you get to investigate these things. How does that
do.
work when you if someone was to hire you to investigate or to kind of look at their company, see what's really happening? When you look at these things, what are you looking for?
Okay. So it depends. It definitely depends on what it is. But many times I look for disparities. If that's what they're calling me in for, or if I'm their HR person or the HR department for their site, and I have the data, then I can just go through the data and see if there are any disparities, not just women.
Right.
Sometimes it's minorities, right? So just going in and looking at the data, even if it's I mean, it's not even down to color. Even if it's white women, okay, why are the white ladies or the white men or the black ladies or the black men being paid significantly lower when they're doing the same job?
Right.
But generally, there's an issue. People call me when there's a problem.
Okay.
If they don't have enough resources to perform things,
Yeah.
or if there is an issue, an employee relations issue, if
Oh.
there's a sexual harassment, then I'm in investigating. If there's a safety issue and they don't have the resources to handle that, then I'm in there doing
You're a
it.
big deal.
If they need a leadership program in
Yeah.
place, then they're calling me to the table saying, hey, here's our issue. Our leaders are weak.
Yeah.
We have leaders that have been with our company for 10 years, but they're not relevant anymore. What do? So we do an analysis. We do an assessment of the skills that's needed for the role and the current skills of the person. And once we identify the gaps, we have to be real. Can this person move up to this? Can we close this gap enough for this person to take us in the future?
Right.
Sometimes it's no. Yeah. Sometimes the gap is too big.
Even with all the training and everything and development.
Yes. Sometimes it's too big. And it's more times than not, it's up to that person to take it and run with it, and not to say, but this is the way we've always done it.
Okay, I see.
And it requires doing more.
It's a mindset thing.
It is definitely a mindset thing. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Yes.
So when you say they call you with issues, I know they dialing your phone because it's issues is all across the news.
Yes.
About sexual harassment,
Oh, my
all
goodness.
types of stuff.
It is.
So I see why you're busy.
It can be a lot. And then I do leadership coaching for some companies also.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But that's a lot
It's
to
fun,
deal with.
though.
Yeah, I like I'm not a detective or nothing, but I like digging and stuff like
It is
that.
so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I dig in numbers
Yes.
now, you know.
Like
but
right now, I'm negotiating insurance. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what do you
Working
mean?
directly with brokers to roll out insurance plans. That's culture too. And that's the way I explain it to leaders that I work with. Your foundation is getting good benefits for your people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's important.
Absolutely.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So With your extensive background in various HR functions, what do you believe or think that are the most important critical skills for leaders today in leadership positions?
Okay. I think, and I'll give you a few of those. I think influence skills, being able to influence the vision of the company. Yeah.
What do you mean when you say influence
Okay.
the vision of the company, like change?
So once the leaders grab hold to the vision of the company, where they're going, how they get from point A to point B, being able to influence the people that work for them to do the same. You're taking the people with you. That's what the vision is about.
Right.
You're making it plain to the people. Every day people come to work, they should definitely know their why and where they're going.
Right.
That's one of the number one skills for me, being able to influence the people. Yeah. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything.
Yep.
And that vision that you're influencing, it helps you to stand for what's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Influence.
Yes. And I think another thing is communication skills.
Yeah.
What works for one doesn't work for all.
Yeah.
Being able to communicate to the leaders in a way, to the employees,
Yeah.
in a way that they get and they understand, okay, this is my why.
Right.
Yeah. And even when conflict happens, I've had to fire a lot of people, but it was all in communication. Some of them left out the door smiling and giving me hugs, but it was the tact of the communication that I'm like, oh, he just hugged me and I fired him, Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
So, two, we got influence
Yes.
and communication.
Yes.
That's so true, because you can't talk to everybody the same.
You cannot.
You got to know who you're talking to, how to speak to them, because they interpret information and sounds differently.
And you have to know what to communicate, what not to communicate. And this has been a big one, making sure the communicate filters down. Because many times we're communicating, but the employees are not getting the same message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You experience that in just life in general.
Yeah.
You're saying something like,
yes,
well, I meant this. Well, that's not what I heard,
Exactly. Yes.
That's good. I like
and
the
then setting up channels.
Communication, setting up channels. And then what was the other one you said?
I think adaptability is really good too.
Adaptability.
Being adaptable.
Yeah.
We're in a changing world. Change is inevitable, right?
Yes.
Whether we change or not, change is going to happen.
Yep.
So being adaptable and being flexible enough to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yes.
Because you're going to get left behind.
You're going to get left behind. And let me tell you, relevance. We have to stay relevant. And that's a part of being adaptable. Just like, look at AI. It is changing the world. And guess what? There are so many companies, so many people that are still not using it. They're saying, oh, this doesn't pertain to me. I was one of them.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's happening real quick.
It is very fast.
Yeah. So if you haven't made ChatGPT or one of those your friend, let me tell you something. Go on YouTube, learn how to use it, and do it, because it's happening.
Yeah. For real, you best to learn. You got to keep up with the time.
We have to.
I'm just so glad I'm in the industry that, they really can't replace me right now.
Hey, that human piece, you still need that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You really do.
But how do we incorporate AI to help make our jobs easier?
Right.
So that we can focus on the things that we should focus on.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And AI, because, even now, you have to hire copywriters. You have to hire people for so many different areas.
Is true.
So many positions. But just implementing AI, and you just talk to it as if it's a human. It will help you get through your day, even in entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
It's a think partner.
Yeah.
I mean, it can do things that I used to do from scratch. It can write handbooks. Now, it can't think totally.
No.
You have to customize some stuff.
Yeah.
But it's there.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah.
It does. All that research, you can research right there, get your information, go to articles, wherever you need to go, statistics. So
that's right. Even for my personal, I'm a big wellness advocate. And I do my best to take care of myself.
Yeah.
But even to say, hey, I'm looking for a low carb diet. I am 48 years old.
Yeah.
And I work out 3 times a week. What do you recommend?
Right. And it just spits
it
out.
will give you a health plan.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yes.
You might got to tweak it a little bit.
You have to tweak it some, but you don't want it to think for you totally.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so you've invested a lot into your professional development with certifications and tools like the Myers-Briggs type indicator,
Yes.
Six Sigma,
Yes.
and instructional design.
Yes.
So for me, these show your commitment to improving teamwork and making organizations more effective. What advice would you offer business owners on the importance of continually investing in their professional development to remain competitive and relevant in their field?
Okay, I would say that growth, it's not an option. If you're going to do well in business, you have to grow. You have to do that. And I am an avid learner. I love to read, love it. I love to apply what I've read to my business and to my life. I would say find out what you need to be relevant and also do some things that you enjoy doing.
Right.
If you like to cook, go expand your cooking skills.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Get around like-minded people in the
Yeah.
industry. Have people you can bounce stuff off of. I have other HR leaders, some that have been in business much longer than me.
Yeah.
And they'll call and say, hey, let me bounce that off of you.
Right.
And guess what? I do the same.
Right.
I don't want it to be my way and that's it.
Right.
Yeah. There are so many different ways to do things in human resources and in any field. But keep learning.
Yeah.
I make sure I go to conferences. So let me tell you this piece about learning. I put together a plan for my life at the end of every year. And I focus. In my faith, we're triune beings. That's what we believe. Mind, body, and spirit. I have a plan around each. I can't just go work this body and that's it. And I'm healthy, especially if I'm jacked up mentally. Right. And so I have to have a developmental plan around all three areas.
Yeah.
If that's important for me.
Right.
And I would just say to put together a plan of development. Reading is on my calendar because I'm not going to get it done if it's not.
Right.
Public speaking is on my calendar. I have to put the things on my calendar.
Right.
If you're not on your calendar, then everybody else is going to dictate what you do.
That is so true. My calendar is the same.
Absolutely.
Everything is on the calendar.
That's right.
So that's really good. That's some good advice.
We have to do that.
Yeah.
But get your learning, get yourself on the calendar.
Yeah.
That's what
so
I would
true.
say.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. So everything starts with people and ends with people.
It does.
Don't that sound familiar? So I love this statement because so many businesses take their employees for granted, right?
Yes.
They don't value the crucial roles that their employees play in the company's success.
Right.
And employees' well-being, of course, is very important to how they function in the workplace. So what steps do you believe companies can take to genuinely value their employees and support their well-being?
Okay. I think the first thing is to pay them well. And when I say pay them well, I'm speaking of fairly.
Yes.
Understand what the market is paying, people in your region with similar roles, and pay 50% to what they pay or more.
So when you say that, what do you mean by that?
So we have surveys. So
Yeah.
in the field of human resources, there are compensation surveys out there.
Right.
And it'll show you what people are paying. And where you fall in the market. Sometimes you have to participate in the surveys to get them. Sometimes you have to buy them. Okay. But you have to know it can't just be, I think we're paying okay.
Right.
Understand that you're paying at least at the market rate.
Right.
And that is where your other people that's doing what you do, what they're paying their people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought you said 50%, like 50%.
Well, the 50 percentile, and let me explain what that means.
Yeah.
That's the average of what people in like industries with like roles pay. So the 50 percentile is you should at least be in the 50th. That's where everyone else is.
Yeah.
If you go above the 50th percentile, that means you're paying better than most of those companies.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, they need you.
Yes.
They need to know that.
So to me, that's foundational. That's number one.
Yeah.
When you can. Some companies can't do that yet.
Right.
But you do it when you can.
Right.
And also giving good benefits to the employees.
That's
yes.
good.
I think that is really good. That's not even appreciation. That's foundational.
Yeah.
But it's not always happening.
That's true.
And I think the other thing is having a learning environment.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the tools and resources to do great at what they do, what you've called them to do.
Right.
It's hard to hold them accountable if you haven't given them the resources to do a great job.
You got to say that again.
Yeah.
It's what?
Yeah. It's hard to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
If you have to give them resources.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, he's not doing his job.
Right.
What did that leader do to remove obstacles to keep that
Right.
person from doing their job?
That is so
Yeah.
true.
And I think celebrating some things too.
Yeah, you know, that's a big deal because education in the workplace is important because you want them to
Absolutely.
perform top tier,
Yes.
but you're not doing or showing them those things or giving them the
That is
resources to
right.
do that.
Yeah, we miss that sometimes.
Yeah. And then you're like, they're not doing this right. They're not doing that right.
That's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
small business is a big deal because it's a big problem for small businesses. Even though
is.
you're a small business,
Yes.
it's just like corporate. You still have to play the same game.
You do. You absolutely do. And I think celebrating some things, celebrating outcomes. When people are doing things right, tell them.
Yes.
Yes. We are quick to say, okay, you did this wrong.
Right.
You didn't do this. What am I doing right?
Yes.
Celebrate those things.
Yeah.
Whether it's a pat on the back, whether it's an employee celebration, celebrate. Yeah.
That's good for personal too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so when business owners are hiring employees within their business, what are some key characteristics they should look for when hiring their employees to make sure they're the right fit for their company's culture and their goals?
This is good. Now, first, I would say, and when I work with companies, I want to make sure that the job description is correct and that we've identified competencies that we're looking for. Okay. We want to make sure that this person is right for the role, first and foremost, based on what the company has identified. Many times I go in companies and they have not outlined that. They don't really know what they're looking for other than a title.
Right.
There's a lot beneath the title. Yeah. What skills do you need in this role?
Yeah.
What knowledge, what abilities, what level of experience?
Yeah.
How should this person act? Is it a sense of urgency? I know you've probably been through a drive-through if you eat out, right?
Yeah.
The person that's on the other side of that window doesn't even speak, hand out the window, not even looking at you,
Right.
texting,
Right.
you know? And so I would say to work with a consultant if you don't have it, to identify what's truly important. That's step number one.
That's important
It
because
is so important.
so many of them do not do that. And then they wonder why they have high turnover rates.
Absolutely.
You know, like, for example,
Yeah.
in the home healthcare industry, we work with a lot of home healthcare.
Right.
Their turnover rate has increased to 80% this year.
I believe that.
They are very low on staff. And from what I'm seeing, training is constant, but it's not happening.
Yes.
You know, hiring the right people with the right skills for the right position.
Yes.
And teaching them. And you know, and like you said, showing appreciation.
That's right.
You know, one
to.
company that I work with, they do really well. They do up and beyond with showing
Really?
employee appreciation. They do. So they do that really well. But I think what you said is so important for them. Like, it's not just a title that you're looking for. You're not just looking for a CNA or RN, a LPN.
Yes.
It's more to it.
There's more. And you have to find out what motivates them.
Yeah.
And also give hope. So if someone wants to grow, okay, today maybe you're a CNA, then maybe you're a geriatric specialist, and then there's a potential to be an RN.
Right.
But you have to have a career path for many people now.
Yeah, you
or
do.
they're not going to stay.
Yes.
Yes.
This is what I'm always saying.
Yeah. And and
Yeah.
you know what happens? If someone else throws a carrot that's $1, they leave.
They do. Over over.
Yes.
I've seen them leave for 25 cents
I'm
more.
telling you.
You know, like,
Yeah.
really? And then they try to come back, you know.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, no. But no, that's so true.
And train managers to manage people and to respect them and treat them well.
Yeah.
And it's still true. Managers don't just leave jobs. They leave other people don't just leave jobs. They leave managers. And in many cases, they're running from managers who haven't been taught to lead.
I know that's
Maybe
true.
it was someone that came up in the company and was elevated through the ranks. But we have to teach managers how to manage people.
Yeah. I know from experience, That what you're saying is absolutely correct. I've left quite a few just because of the manager.
Me too.
Like, I'm out of here.
This is not gonna work.
No, it's not gonna work. So yes. That's these nuggets is so important.
Yes.
So hopefully they listen and learn.
Yes.
Like, that's a big deal. Yeah. So I think I know your answer to this, but I'll ask you, do you think that factors like compensation benefits, work-life balance impact the turnover rates in the home healthcare industry?
Absolutely. In any industry right now.
Right.
And we have to be conscious of what the various generations, what's important to various generations.
Yeah.
There are some generations, the flexibility piece is very important.
Yeah.
And I know one size doesn't fit all.
Right.
But baby boomers, they were fine working 16 hours a day, getting home at night when the kids were asleep.
Right.
But if you look at some of our newer generations, they would rather have a 3-day weekend. And they want money too, but the 3-day weekend is more important than the money. For them.
It's a whole thing with them. They want money, less time in business, and they want to do what they want to do.
And that's a good question because the side hustles have become very relevant to a lifestyle that's flexible.
Yeah.
So people are leaving manufacturing companies making $25 an hour, and they're like, you know what? I can go and work for Uber Eats and make $25 an hour. I can deliver 3 orders.
Right.
Yes. So what happens is when those things are not in place, there are other options now that weren't there before.
Yeah.
10 years ago, people didn't have many options. They had to work your 16 hours a day. They had to work on Saturdays. They had to do the call. When you call them to come in, they don't have to do that anymore. They can work at home.
Yeah, for real. Man, these companies are really have a lot of competition when it comes to staff because if you don't do me right, bye.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go. There's Lyft, there's Uber.
Yes.
There's so many of them that you could do.
You know what? I build plans for companies to compete with side hustles. So why are they leaving? Okay, how are we gonna compete with that next year? Yeah. They have flexible work schedules.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to do?
To
give them flexibility. So why would you leave to go to Uber?
Right.
If we're giving you some of the same benefits.
Right. I like that. It's no reason to leave. We got everything you need already.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep.
Okay. So how can business owners prevent neglecting employee training and development?
Yes. They have to make the investment. It has to be important. Yeah. And sometimes we can't afford the very expensive training or platforms.
Yeah.
But there is something out there for everyone.
Yeah.
I think developmental plans, when you do performance reviews, development should be included in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's important for your company's growth.
Right.
So what are the 3 things that we're going to work on for next year?
Right.
How are you going to be developed? What do you want to do? Now, here are the 2 things we want you to do as a company. This is important to the company, but we want to know what you want to learn, and we're going to invest in that too.
Yeah.
It can be books, right? YouTube has everything. Look, I said that once.
Yeah.
But you can find everything under the sun on the internet now.
You can.
Yes. You can challenge people. I want you to develop this training.
Yeah.
Develop this. And it's going to be for you and your counterparts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. You are so
make them part of the process. Thank you.
To these businesses. They need you.
Thank you.
Just even with talking to my clients and just some of the things that you said, I've told them. Like, but you go so much more in detail because this is what you do.
Yes.
So, man, just looking at things in a different aspect of how what they are trained to see and what they're used to seeing.
Yes.
They absolutely need you. They're missing out. They don't have you.
Thank you.
So how can business owners improve their onboarding processes for better success?
This is so good. I am a stickler for onboarding. And it's because statistics prove that when you onboard someone correctly, the likelihood of them staying with your company is almost 100%. And I have some statistics that I can share on that.
Yeah.
Onboarding is key. Getting them acclimated to the team, that's huge.
Yeah.
Getting them the training that they need, doing regular check-ins. And I build onboarding processes continuously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when I work with companies to hire, I want to see your onboarding process, and I'll fill the gaps and make recommendations if you need me to.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's how important it is. And I'm going to tell you why we do this. I'm not just focusing on bringing somebody on board. We focus on retention.
Yeah.
Retaining people is important. And the reason is I have a clause that says if this person leaves you in 90 days, in some cases 6 months, we got to go back to market and find somebody.
Yeah.
So I want you to keep this person.
Right.
And we're going to do what we need to do to make sure that you keep the person.
Right.
Having those checks and balances,
Mhm.
whether it's weekly, whether it's every other week, whether it's 30 days, checking in, how is it going?
Right.
There are some companies I do surveys for. Hey, how has your experience been?
Yeah.
Answer these 5 questions.
Right.
But we know. You shouldn't be surprised when people leave your company. You should know. Yeah.
That's right.
And if you are in tune with them during that first couple of months, you will know. And then you have an opportunity to fix it.
Yeah. I say this a lot. This
Yes.
brought me to my next question.
Okay.
Do you think that using feedback from exit interviews or current staff surveys would improve their retention strategies?
Absolutely. It does. I'm big on that. We use exit interview data. Now, I try to talk to people or have my recruiters or managers to talk to people, not the manager of the employee, because sometimes they're the problem.
Yeah.
But we collect the data, but not only do we look at it as an individual, we present that in our monthly managerial meeting. Yeah. And I have a client now, we have our annual meetings coming up, and I have an HR part. One of the things that I show is a scorecard for each department and how they did with not just bringing people on, but employee retention.
Yeah.
And then I show exit interview data.
Yeah.
And we talk about that. What are you going to do differently next year?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big
Yeah, but
deal.
it helps. Exit interview data helps. Sometimes it's skewed if employees just want to get out and not say anything.
Yeah.
And we find that when it's the managers. So we have to be tactful with the communication when we talk to them. So it's not that you're squealing on someone, but you're giving us data so that we can improve.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's good. I'm over here excited.
Yes,
but
it
yeah,
does
this is
help.
really good. Okay, so what's one of the biggest hiring mistakes that you see businesses make when they hire new employees?
Looking at the skills and not the fit. Looking at just the resume and saying, oh, this person is really good and can do all this.
Right.
But they're not the right fit. And we haven't asked the right questions.
Right.
The behavioral interview questions.
Yeah.
To make sure that they can act right too.
Right. Yeah, that's
You
important.
can do the job, but you can't act right. And we're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, so that caused them to leave the
Yes.
company faster. So doesn't that cost them more money?
It
Now they got to
costs-
replace someone
Absolutely.
and market.
And you've put all that training, you've invested training.
Yeah.
You've had other employees to invest in the training.
Yeah.
And many positions, there is a cost for every day that role is open because you're not producing to capacity or producing your results.
Yeah.
So there's so much cost there.
Yeah.
But yeah, people are real fast to bring people in that have the skills.
Yes. And it's, it happens a lot in home healthcare.
Does it?
Yes, because they need to fill positions fast. They need someone in
Yes.
this area.
Yes.
And Fredericksburg, they have a case 8 to 5. So people are coming on very fast, but you don't necessarily know if they're the right fit for the role.
That's right. And I do think sometimes you have to do that. I did some work for Amazon. Now, Amazon has grown quicker than anything we know. There's not even a descriptive to their growth, right?
Wow.
And so they were doing that earlier. They were just bringing people in. But one thing I can say about Amazon, they've put the resources in there to do the work, to understand the data, to see what we need to do differently.
Yeah.
But sometimes you are in growth mode and you do have to throw people
Yeah.
at work. But when it's possible,
Yes.
you have to put the resources or you're just going to be going through bodies.
Yes. Bodies for real. Because
That's
then they're
right.
dropping like they about to leave.
Oh, yeah.
You got to replace somebody.
Yes.
It's only been 2 months.
Yeah, and what do you need? Do you need someone who's reliable and consistent?
Yeah.
Have you checked references to know that this person is consistent?
Right.
Because now when I'm looking at resumes, it's different. You've been on this job 3 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, 5. No, I don't want you in this role unless it's a short-term role.
Right.
Now, I can take the risk if I'm hiring for a 6-month role, but if we want someone in for the long haul, and if you've been skipping around, you're not going to change today.
Right. That is so true. The resume speaks a lot about who they are because you'll see that those gaps or those 10 jobs in that 1
right.
year.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
And it's going to continue.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if pay gonna change that.
No.
So, why is it important to hire the right employees in industries like home health care,
Yes.
just, any other industry with high turnover rates?
Okay. Well, you want to eventually become a stable company.
Right.
You want to create a team. It's hard to create a team when people are in and out and your company is a revolving door.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's so
that's
true.
why. And then with home, when you're looking at home health care, you have people, you're serving people, clients, and you want as much stability as you can have for those clients.
Yes, because they're going to
You
keep
do.
seeing new faces.
They shouldn't have to continue to see new faces.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is a great reason to get stability in those homes or those houses. And so that someone can have the flow of the business.
Yeah.
It takes a minute to get the flow. It's not just about a job.
Right.
This is how we do it.
Right.
And then they're becoming, and I don't like to use the word family, but it's almost like a family when you're working together as a team.
Yeah, for real. Company culture.
Yes.
That's how I look at it. It's like,
Yes.
when you create that conducive environment, that
Absolutely.
warm environment,
Yes.
now they can talk to you and tell you or come to you about issues.
That is
The
right.
communication is open. So it's
Yes.
important if you're trying to really grow and scale. So
Yes. You have to
hands
have the
down.
you
Yeah.
you definitely have to have the right people.
Yes.
And it is important to make sure they stay on board. Yeah.
It really is. So what are some common misconceptions that you've encountered in your journey about what you do?
Okay. About human resources.
Yeah, or about, your as a PO or just things that
Yeah.
people say that's like,
Okay.
no, that's not true. We
Okay.
do more than just that.
Yes.
Or,
Well, we have been looked at in the past because of the position. I mean, it was kind of watered down.
Yeah.
So we were looked at, number one, as like a principal's office. If you do something bad, then we're going to write you up, and
Yeah.
that's it. Not coach you to the good behavior or performance and give you an opportunity to learn from your mistake.
Right.
So we were looked at as the principal's office before. But we've also been looked at as the Girl Friday and not really adding value to the bottom line of the business. Yeah.
That's
And that
crazy.
is not true. In some businesses, it is because they still don't value the role.
Right.
But as we show up and come to the table with data and we're able to have these strategic discussions, we change that.
Yeah.
Those that are in the field, we're changing it.
Right.
Yes. So that has been a misconception.
It's so
also.
important that because I keep hearing data.
Yeah. I
So
have
what
to
you
use that.
did is in this business that you
Yes.
created, you incorporated data
Absolutely.
to get to the
Yes.
eyes or, get to the people
Right.
that it matters to so they can see how important your
Yes.
role actually
At the
is.
end of the day, they want results, right?
Yeah.
And we want people treated right. And we want them in the best state of mind to get the results.
Yeah.
And so to do that, I'm at the table with the operations VPs.
Yeah.
I'm at the table with the CEO. I'm not just over in the corner typing and doing my own thing, but I'm part of that strategic team that gets results.
Right.
So we're talking about numbers. I'm understanding what they do in the sales department, how they get, their results on this side. And I'm looking at that and understanding the gaps and the people gaps and looking at job descriptions to make sure that we're still relevant. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what you do.
So,
It
so yeah,
sounds-
just really locked in.
Yeah.
And we were in a silo. If you look back years ago, HR was in a silo. Yeah.
When you say silo, do you mean because basically HR is like when you're working for these big companies, because when I worked for corporate, HR was in the next room doing
Yes.
their thing.
Absolutely.
That was it. Just
Yes.
that one person.
Just almost like not part of the team, but here, this person gets a raise, put this in the computer.
Yes. No, for real.
Yes.
That's true.
But not looking at the whole compensation structure to say, hey, this is what the market shows. And we have an opportunity to do better in this area. And, just having those discussions.
Yeah. I have no words, but because I'm just thinking about the data, when you use numbers,
Yes.
you can't refute numbers. So when you see how your business is performing based off of numbers, and that's what we do too, it's like you can't say nothing about it. You have no choice but to trust what I'm saying.
You cannot. Even just an example, I told you I'm negotiating some benefits.
Yeah.
And I looked at every tier, employee, employee only, employee plus spouse and family. And then I looked at what other companies were doing. And some things really stood out. So when I went to the CEO, I said, hey, we've been paying this percentage for the last 10 years, and the market is paying this much.
Yeah.
We have to increase this. 25% of the employees have medical benefits.
Mm-hmm.
That's not standard.
Right.
Because they're not affordable. And I'm grateful. The CEO, he's looking at the operational results, but I'm grateful that this is a CEO who wants to do great by people.
Right.
He's amazing.
Right.
If you show him the data and he understands he's going to change, he said, I will pay more, get us where we need to be.
Mm.
But he's not looking at that on a regular basis. That's
Right.
what we should be doing
Right.
as human resource business partners. And that's what I consider myself as when I'm working with these organizations. I'm your partner.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So what is the biggest challenge that you have right now that you're helping your clients overcome?
Turnover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turnover.
Turnover is big.
Doing what some turnover is good turnover.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're hiring people in, everybody's not going to stay.
Right.
We know this.
Mm-hmm.
We can do all of the assessments in the world. Everybody won't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when it comes to turnover, we need to understand what we could have done differently, if we could have done something differently.
Right.
And here's another challenge. When you know you have the wrong person, not just letting it continue.
Right.
Yeah.
Just cut it off.
Hiring a little bit slower, but firing faster.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't do that. We're like, but I made this decision to bring this person in,
Yeah.
so I have to live with this decision. You don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to hear that.
Believe what you see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there are some things we have to do. I don't believe in just bringing them in and you see. But if you're seeing patterns and you're giving them the resources and the tools to do what they need to do,
right, and
you know that it's not going to work,
yeah,
you have to separate quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Uh-huh.
You know what's so crazy is I think it was Hell's Kitchen where where is it? Is it Hell's Kitchen? It's one of where he go to the other restaurants.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Can't think of the name of it.
Okay.
Something. But he goes in there and their employees, the chefs in the kitchen, they refuse to change, how they're cooking the food, the practices. So that just reminded me of exactly what you just said.
Yes.
They giving them the resources, they have the tools, they have the equipment, now the knowledge, but they don't want to do it. They fall back into the old ways. It. Yeah. So right. It affects the company and how they're performing. Yes. And the owners, they can't detach from that. Some of them,
Oh yeah.
But
and
that's
if your culture is strong, the wrong person will stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will.
They just won't fit, and you'll see that.
Yeah. But they be refusing to do anything about it. It's terrible.
Yes.
But
yes.
As you reflect on your journey so far, what important lesson or lessons have shaped how you approach business?
Well, I think one thing, you have to meet people where they are. I talk about my daughter has a reentry program. Just doing more things that help people connect with the community. When you are dealing with reentry, those are some of the most grateful people that you ever want to meet. And I think that's been shunned for so many years.
Yeah.
That, no, we're not going to hire people that have been in jail. People make mistakes.
Right.
So really meeting people where they are, that's been a big one for me.
Yeah.
And we just have a heart for helping people to get that second chance.
Yeah.
I'm a product of, my father raised me, and he passed away a week before my 15th birthday. And, I went and lived with my mom for a while. That didn't work because of a relationship that she was in. So I was on my own at 17.
Wow.
And that is one of the reasons why I have such a passion for women.
Yeah.
And to help them, especially women, young ladies that need a second chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, and help them to get the skills they need. Just being very open with coaching and honest.
Yeah.
And being that cheerleader. You can do this. So just meeting people where they are, not writing people off because they've had some bad circumstances.
Right.
That's been a big one for me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can get up there and start making money and be like, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
don't forget about the people.
Yeah, the people business it should be a humble business.
Yeah.
It really should.
That's important.
Yeah, that is.
So you've been on your journey a long time.
I have. Yes.
Wow.
I have. And I think another thing is relationships. Relationships matter. How we treat people, it matters. And also doing things and not always putting a fee on it.
Right.
Those are some of the biggest dollars that I've made.
Yeah.
And I hate to say doing free work, but I'll say that. But just adding value.
Right.
Hey, what information do you need?
Yeah.
Let me send that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything is not about $1, but those are the same people that call me 6 months later and say, hey, can you do this for me? Or
Right.
I know a person,
Right.
but just making relationships, doing networking,
Right.
and not even looking for anything in return per se,
Yeah.
but seeing how you can add value.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
Yes.
A lot of people who
Yeah.
really network, who really
Yes.
is out here,
Yes.
add value
That's
to
what I
other
saw in
people.
you. Yeah. And that's not always the case. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Because
that.
I'm like constantly like, nope, nope, nope. I don't have time. Nope, nope. But I was like, you know what? And you have to know.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah.
You got to know who you're talking
You
to.
have to.
know,
Yeah.
I tell people that a lot
Yes.
because they be like, I'm doing this for free or whatever. I said 9 times out of 10, you already knew
Yes.
who you were talking to
That's
when you were
right.
talking to them.
Yeah.
You're not surprised. You just didn't have the courage to say no.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And we can't say yes to everything.
Right.
And that was a big one. That's why I stepped off some boards.
Yeah.
Because I want to be really fruitful. If I say yes,
Mhm.
then my yes has to have some backing behind it.
Yep.
I want to deliver and give my all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I'm doing all of this,
Yeah.
I'm not at my best.
Right.
Some people might be, but I'm not.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because you're doing so much, you're thin.
Absolutely.
You're stretched thin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be able to go to hot yoga and do my hiking, and because those help me to be at my best.
Yeah.
And saying yes to everything, you can't do that. I want to
Right.
spend time with my daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I like that.
Yes.
So what are you most excited for the future for your business or for personal? What are you most
Okay.
excited about?
Well, that's a good one because I get excited about quite a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Just the future of HR in general.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited about that. More of the people things, teaching people how to do more with less.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that as a way to get rid of people,
Yeah.
but placing people where they flow and where they can be at their best.
Right.
So that's a good thing for me.
Okay.
And we're working on some things behind the scenes, some technology that's going to help with that.
Okay.
Yes.
So we got something else to look.
We have something
forward to.
really big brewing.
Okay. Now I
And
do remember.
Yeah.
You did tell me
Mhm.
about something happening in Petersburg. I don't know if you want to mention it. You got something.
Not yet.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll say
that one feeds into the other.
Okay.
But that's coming.
Okay, you got
Yeah.
some stuff happening. So I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming
Thank
on
you.
and sharing some
Thank-
gems,
Thank
some
you.
huge gems
Thank you.
with the people. And I pray that this
Yes.
information, it resonates and they'll know I need her,
Thank you.
you know, because you
Thank
do
you.
a tremendous job.
Mhm.
And it's a big deal. I don't think people really understand what you do,
Right.
but today they should. They really
I
should.
appreciate this opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.